Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, as the price of Bitcoin remains within this massive descending broadening wedge pattern, we are continuing to see this oversold signal play out here in the short term as the price of Bitcoin is getting closer towards liquidating some short positions, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum and Solana now playing out this oversold signal here in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the 4-day Bitcoin chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red. So over the last 1 day, nothing's really changed on this chart, and the same can be said about this 2-day Bitcoin chart, because despite the short-term bounce that we're seeing at the moment, technically speaking, we've not yet left this massive descending broadening wedge pattern, which is essentially a larger bearish trend. And so, as I've said many times here on the channel, we can only start to flip much more bullish again, expecting more of a bull run on the larger timeframes, on these larger charts right here, if we see a confirmed breakout above this line of resistance, which at the moment is sitting closer towards around 67,000, give or take. So ideally, we need a breakout above around 67 and above 68,000 to be more confident that things are really flipping much more bullish again on the larger timeframes, not just in the short term. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, as I mentioned over the last few days, we've seen a recent spike to the upside in the DXY, a massive bullish move in the DXY, which is a bearish signal for Bitcoin and crypto. And of course, we have seen a dump over the last 1 week, coinciding with this spike to the upside in the DXY. But as usual, the DXY is closed for trading over the weekend. So over the weekend, we don't really have any new updates on this chart right here. So getting straight into this daily Bitcoin chart. And right now, we are continuing to see the bounce from this major area of support, still sitting in between around 60 to 61,000, or more specifically around 60.2K to 61.2K. And so for now, that is the area of support to pay attention to. But if we actually see a continued bounce here in the short term, then in that case, we should expect some resistance closer towards 63,000. And above that, we do have some decent resistance at around 64.2K to 64,500 based on this previous high right here. And once again, significant resistance starting close to 67,000 and going up towards around 68,000. And so those are the levels on the price chart where the price of Bitcoin will likely struggle at if we start running into those areas on the price chart. And as for support below 60,000, if we were to see a breakback below 60,000 with confirmation, so candle closes below $60,000, in that situation, the next significant area of support to the downside is sitting in between around 56,000 to 57,000. But once again, at least for now, around 60 to 61,000 is currently acting as support. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, we can see this oversold signal is continuing to play out pretty much perfectly here in the short term, as I've said over the last few days, because usually when an oversold signal confirms here in the Bitcoin RSI, it's telling us we're running out of room to the downside just in the imminent short term. And so we're due to see at least some sort of sideways consolidation or maybe a slight bounce in order to reset the RSI back to the upside out of those oversold territories. And over the last few days, this is exactly what we've seen as expected. And as of recording this video, right now, the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI is sitting right around neutral, so around that 50 level, which means we've basically already reset back towards more neutral levels. And so technically speaking, this now gives us some more room to the downside again. We've basically cleared more room to the downside in the RSI, which means we could potentially see a continuation of the bearish trend later on. That's still a possibility because an oversold signal is not a trend reversal signal. Sometimes it just means a bit of a break during the current trend. But we also have to remember that right now we're in a weekend, and usually, not always, but usually on the weekends, we see relatively low volatility as there are lower trading volumes on exchanges over the weekends. And so oftentimes that means relatively neutral price action, essentially not really any major volatile moves on the weekends. It's not common to see a volatile move on the weekend, obviously not impossible, but not common. And so the likely scenario over the rest of the weekend is likely going to be mostly neutral price action, maybe a continued bullish relief, a very slight bullish relief. Once again, I don't really expect any massive movements just for the weekend. But then as we enter into the new week, we could start to see a lot more volatility as we saw in this previous week just here during the weekdays. And if you want to trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I take just about all of my trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on an account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video to make your Bybit account. And also, if you click that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is currently my official Crypto World team in the World Series of Trading, which is the largest trading competition in the world, and it's happening right now over on Bybit. And so if you want to join my team in this trading competition, it's completely free to do so. Once again, first link down below this video. And also the total prize pool for this trading competition this year is a $10 million prize pool, 10 million USDT up for grabs, especially if we place well in the competition. And basically, the more people that we have in our team, the better our chances are at potentially taking some of this prize money right here. But either way, even if you're not the best trader in the world and we don't place well in the competition, there's still these lucky draw prizes just by entering the competition and joining my Crypto World team that enters you into this lucky draw right here, where you could potentially win a Rolex watch or even a luxury yacht just by entering the competition and joining my team. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is Bitfinex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitfinex, which means if you're in the US or the UK, for example, or another country where you might not be able to access Bybit, you can access Bitfinex. So I'll also leave a link to Bitfinex down below this video. And if you use that link to make your Bitfinex account, you can get up to a 5.5k deposit bonus. And only if you use that link below this video, you can get an exclusive 10% discount on all trading fees on the Bitfinex exchange forever, but that's only if you use the link down below this video to make your Bitfinex account. And so as another option out there other than Bybit, once again, there's Bitfinex, links down below if you want to claim those extra bonuses. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and right now the price of Bitcoin, as we're playing out this oversold signal with a slight relief here in the short term, we're moving closer towards potentially liquidating some short positions. And so right now we do have some liquidity at around 62.7k to 62.9k, so basically going up towards around 63,000. And then we have some more liquidity at around 63.4k and more liquidity in between 64.2k to 64.7k approximately, and a major area of liquidity starting at around 66.2k and going up towards around 66,500. And so those are the areas of liquidity to watch out for to the upside in case we continue this slight bullish relief here in the short term, once again, potentially over the weekend, as I said earlier. And so this could potentially result in a small short squeeze. Now, I don't necessarily expect a massive short squeeze considering there's not really massive liquidity above the price, but there's still some liquidity that's worth paying attention to. And of course, as we can also see on this Bitcoin chart right here, we can still see a massive amount of liquidity just underneath $60,000, basically in between around 59.6k to 59.8k approximately. And so potentially sometime next week, once again on a weekday, we could start to see more volatility. And so maybe next week we could come back down to take out that liquidity. That's still a possibility that we need to pay attention to. But once again, just for the rest of the weekend, I do expect relatively neutral price action, maybe a very slight bullish relief just for the rest of the weekend. And with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now we're still holding above this massive area of support, still sitting in between 2150 to 2.2k, and we still have resistance at around 2450 to 2.5k, and massive resistance at around 2.8k. And in terms of the larger trend at play, technically speaking, we've not fully confirmed a bullish trend reversal out of this larger bearish trend on these larger timeframes. But what we have confirmed here in the smaller timeframes on the 8-hour chart is, of course, this oversold signal just over the last few days here, over the last 1 to 2 days. And since then, we have seen a slight bounce here in the short term, which is obviously something that I've been talking about recently here on the channel. And if we're looking at the last few times, we confirmed an oversold signal on the 8-hour Ethereum chart, on the 8-hour Ethereum RSI. We did end up seeing either a slight bullish relief or at least some choppy sideways price action over the next few days or so, but this is not necessarily a bullish trend reversal signal. Sometimes it's just a slight relief during a bearish trend. And so, as I said, for Bitcoin, most likely for the rest of the weekend, we're most likely going to see a continued slight bullish relief, or at least a bit of a sideways consolidation, something like this or this, for example. But that's not necessarily the end of this bearish movement right here. It's possibly just a bit of a break or relief during a bearish trend. So just keep that in mind. And in order to flip more bullish again in terms of the trend and momentum, we ideally need to see some breakouts above key levels of resistance. First of all, breaking out above around 2450 to 2.5k, and especially breaking out above 2.7k. We do have resistance right there, and especially above 2.8k. We have very strong resistance at around 2.8k. But with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the daily time frame, and right now we have actually held above this area on the price chart. So over the last one day, I've updated this area of support just $1 lower. So right now this area of support's basically sitting at around 137 to 142 approximately. Because as I mentioned in my last video here on the channel, if we see a breakout back above around 143, give or take, so basically holding above this area on the price chart, that means that we're still holding above this area and still finding support in this area. And that slight break to the downside was basically just a fake out. We didn't really see any follow through, and we failed the retest. And so for now, that is currently the area of support that I'm still paying attention to right now. Once again, in between 137 to 142. But if we see more of a break to the downside, and especially a follow through or a successful retest with a rejection, something like that, then in that situation, we would likely see a continued move down towards this next massive area of support in between around 120 to 128. And as for resistance, in case we see a bit more of a bounce here in the short term, we do have some resistance at around 153 to 154 based on previous price action, and massive resistance at around 159 to 163. And as I also mentioned in my last video here on the channel, there's the possibility that there is an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming right now on the daily Solana chart. But keep in mind that potential inverse head and shoulders pattern that is possibly forming is not confirmed at all. We've not even completed the formation phase for this pattern. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour Solana chart, we can obviously see this oversold signal confirm just a couple of days ago, around 1 to 2 days ago here. And ever since that oversold signal confirmed here in the smaller time frames, we did see a slight bullish relief, a bit of a bounce here in the short term. And this is usually what we end up seeing when we confirm an oversold signal here in the RSI. We usually see some sort of bounce, or at least a bit of a sideways consolidation, basically a break or a relief from the bearish price action. And so, as I said, for Bitcoin and Ethereum, we're likely just for the rest of the weekend potentially going to see a little bit more of a relief, or just a break essentially from all of this bearish price action. Once again, just for the weekend here, but then possibly in the new week sometime as we start hitting the weekdays, we're most likely going to see more volatility start to pick up during the weekdays. And so just keep that in mind. This bearish trend right here is not necessarily over, but for the remainder of the weekend, I do expect more of a break or relief during this bearish movement right here. And we do have a bit of short-term resistance that we're running into right now based on previous support, which is sitting at around 143 to 144. So just keep that in mind. And we also have a bit of resistance right here, close to 153, as I also mentioned earlier. And we can only really start flipping much more bullish again in terms of the trend and momentum for the price of Solana if we actually confirm breakouts above key levels of resistance, and ideally start forming some higher lows and higher highs on the price chart. And so that is the current situation for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And as always, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.